The former comeback player of the year is coming back to Cleveland. Derek Carr is banged up in New Orleans, and a conversation with a running back looking forward to making his own mark in the league. NFL Spotlight starts now. What's up, everyone, and welcome to NFL Spotlight. I am your producer and co-host, Ben Allen, filling in for Ari today, but don't worry, he's still going to be here in the episode, just, pre-recorded. We'll be talking about Joe Flacco's return to the Cleveland Browns, what it means for Kirk Cousins, and what's going on with Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ari also had a conversation with Kansas State running back and draft hopeful DJ Giddens, but before we get to all that, we need to talk about what's going on with the New Orleans Saints and Derek Carr. Carr has been a subject of many rumors this offseason in regards to how the team actually views him as their long-term starter, but it took an unexpected turn this past week as it was revealed that Derek Carr is dealing with a shoulder injury that could very well impact his availability for the 2025 season. There's not much more info out beyond that, but we should hopefully be able to get a few more of those questions answered today as the Saints begin their offseason training program. Carr missed 7 games in 2024 with various injuries. None was a shoulder, though, unlike 2023, when he did play through a sprained AC joint. The Saints hold the 9th pick in the upcoming draft, and many of the mocks have had them tied to Shedeur Sanders and some with Jackson Dart, albeit it's a little bit questionable whether we're going to actually see Dart go there in the top 10. Whether they go the quarterback route remains to be seen. As far as the other quarterback options go, they have Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener on the roster. They could have looked to the free agent market before a couple of those guys were knocked off with Drew Lock signing out with the Seattle Seahawks. And we also had that other signing that took place that we're about to talk about now, and that's Joe Flacco to the Cleveland Browns. Let's go ahead and jump into that conversation with Ari right now. All right, Ari. Joe Flacco is headed back to the Cleveland Browns. They are, of course, without their normal starting quarterback, Deshaun Watson, for the upcoming season. They have one other quarterback on the roster in Kenny Pickett. Flacco had been out there on the market for a while. He's used to being the veteran quarterback, sitting out there for a little bit, waiting for the right opportunity. Are you surprised that ultimately Cleveland is where he is going? And what do you think this means for their potential of looking at a quarterback in the draft or potentially signing someone else?
Well, Ben, the ripple effects of this one is actually there's so much to this, and we'll start with the fact that Joe Flacco never wanted to leave Cleveland in the first place when he had to go last year from, being comeback player of the year and, getting into the playoffs, magical run off the couch. It was unbelievable. Like, he did not want to leave, but the Browns let him walk in free agency and he signed with the Colts because they wanted to commit to Deshaun Watson. They wanted to have him be the quarterback. And essentially, if Deshaun ever struggles, we don't want the buzz being out there that, hey, you have Flacco, who was great last year, just put him in. So they let him walk. They realized that was a mistake right away during the course of the year because Deshaun obviously was still not playing well. And then eventually he got injured, and that was that. So having Flacco would have been great, but their season went to waste. They finished the year with the second worst record, and now here they are having the number 2 overall pick. This is not a significant contract in any way. It's a 1-year deal with $3 to $4 million guaranteed. There's more in there if he plays. That could go up to 8. If they make the playoffs, it could go higher and higher. But there's a lot of ifs in there with incentives for this to get to real money for Joe Flacco. So I'm not going to rule them out when it comes to the quarterback market here. But as of right now, like you said, it's Kenny Pickett, it's Joe Flacco, and you have Deshaun Watson, who is going to miss this entire year with a second Achilles rupture, and likely his Browns career is over, even though he's under contract for 2026 as well. We saw what the owner said at the owners' meetings, basically calling the trade and all the picks they gave and the money they gave him a big swing and a miss. So his career is over, put him to the side. It's he's just in the building recovering from now. So now what do you do with the draft? And there's 2 things to this. There's the draft, and there's the other veteran quarterback in Kirk Cousins. Let's start with the draft. The draft, I think it's becoming kind of clear here that number 2 overall, very unlikely to take Shedeur Sanders. Cam Ward's going to go number 1. I think that was the quarterback they would have wanted in this draft if they had a chance to take him, but he's obviously set to go to Tennessee. That means the number 2, they're going to more than likely take Travis Hunter or take Abdul Carter. The interesting question becomes, what do they do at the top of the second round, or do they trade back into the first round to get another quarterback into this building? And they have done excessive work on all the other quarterbacks, and that includes Jalen Milroe, Tyler Shuck, and Jackson Dart, and those type of quarterbacks. And the reality is, when they went out to Abdul Carter at Penn State to meet with him, They went out there to have a pro day with him. He didn't do any drills or anything, but they went out to dinner with him. Jimmy Haslam was there, the owner. Andrew Barry, the GM, was there. Other top executives like Glenn Cook was there. One person was missing, and that was Kevin Stefanski. And Stefanski was actually at Ole Miss at the pro day for Jackson Dart, getting some work on him. So clearly, they have done extensive work on the next wave of quarterbacks who could be going here during that second round, where they are picking, of course, very high at the top of the second round. So I think that option is still available to them. Trading back into the first round is still available to them. But if they decide to pass on quarterbacks in the first round, which is expected, and then pass again in the second round, I still would not rule out the possibility of Kirk Cousins being an option for them. Kirk Cousins has a no trade clause. He's made it clear through his agent that he's not going to waive that trade clause until the end of the first round and likely also the beginning of the second round. So he could see where all these quarterbacks fall, because essentially he does not want to get panicked again. What happened to him last year? So he wants to see which options are out there. I don't think having Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett takes away the possibility of Kirk Cousins being a starter in Cleveland, but he's going to have to see the first round, second round for Cleveland go by. And then from there, he'll have to make a decision on if there's a team that's willing to trade for him, and if there's a team out there that is willing to trade enough compensation to the Falcons to give him up. Any trade that would happen with Kirk Cousins, there's the financial aspect as well, where there's $27.5 million due this year, $10 million due next year. Atlanta would have to pay for some of it. The new team would have to pay for some of it. And there's an element also of, would he have to take a pay cut as part of a trade just to get out of Atlanta? So a lot of moving parts. But I don't think moving on or signing Joe Flacco takes the Browns out of that. I don't think it takes the Browns out of taking a quarterback high in the second round and going back into the first round. All it does is brings back somebody who knows Kevin Stefanski, had success with Kevin Stefanski, is loved by that fan base and the players in that team who are there with him, and basically has another option there with him. I also would now rule out the Browns maybe bringing back a receiver that he was very friendly with, like an Amari Cooper, who's still a free agent. So this just gives them more options out there when it comes to the draft and to free agency and the trade market, and essentially do whatever they want. But right now, the quarterbacks on the roster are Flacco and Pickett. I do think they add one more. The big question going in to that 2025 NFL draft on that Thursday night and that Friday as well is, do they take another quarterback as well high? If they don't, I think adding another quarterback at some point over here after the draft and potentially a Kirk Cousins is still very much in play as well.
What would be the reasoning for wanting to bring in a Kirk Cousins? Do they feel the Cleveland Browns, do they feel like they actually have a chance to win games next year? Because like you said, it's probably going to cause a little bit of, they're going to have to work with the Falcons on a number to be able to bring him in. I imagine this is going to have some weird cap implications. So what really would be the driving force for bringing in a guy if the rest of the roster maybe isn't a team that's really going to be able to really compete with the rest of the AFC North?
Well, this is the thing. They just made the playoffs a couple of seasons ago with Joe Flacco. And the thing about this roster, Ben, is it's not a young roster. It's an aging roster that is in a win now mode with the players they have. If they were trying to rebuild and restart, they would have traded Myles Garrett. They didn't. They brought him back on this mammoth extension. They have players like Denzel Ward and Wyatt Teller and Joel Bitonio and David Njoku and Grant Delpit and Jack Conklin and all these different players out there who are up there in age, and basically they're not going to get better and better with more years here. This is their time right now. So when you look at that roster, you want to have somebody who has that experience, which in part is why they are not flabbergasted by any of these quarterbacks at number 2 overall, because if you take Shador or if you're taking Jackson Dart or wherever it is, somewhere in the first round, they don't think that guy is winning in 2025. The guys who could win for you are a Joe Flacco who's done it, a Kirk Cousins who, listen, coming off the Achilles last year, was not the same player, but he has played with Stefanski. He was with him as the quarterbacks coach and offensive coordinator in Minnesota. So those are guys out there that when you look at this roster, it would make sense to add a veteran quarterback who could help you right away in 2025. You're right, Ben. The AFC North is loaded. The Bengals will be better. The Steelers just made the playoffs and could be getting Aaron Rodgers as well. And of course, the Ravens are the Ravens. So it is a very loaded division and a very loaded conference. But this is a roster that has no time to wait over here. You're not bringing back Myles Garrett at $40 million per year to reset and have another 4-win season. You're trying to win 8, 9, 10 games here in 2025. And the only way to do that is by adding another veteran quarterback. Joe Flacco helps, but I don't think they're done. We'll see what they do there at the top of the second round. They trade back into the first round. I think it's an option, but I'm not ruling out Kirk Cousins over here, who badly wants to leave Atlanta. But like I said before, he does not want to get Penixed again. He wants to make sure he's in a situation where he has a chance to start.
Do you think that the Browns actually view Kirk Cousins based of what they saw last year as better than Joe Flacco?
Well, the one thing about Kirk Cousins is the fact that he was coming off the torn Achilles. And I think for people of that age, for a quarterback who's not mobile, for him to be able to have a successful season, I think it was asking a lot. The Falcons were asking a lot out of him. And I think it just wasn't there. We saw some success. Those 2 games against Tampa Bay during the season, he was a really good quarterback and was making throws to Drake London and to Kyle Pitts and to players on that roster. Ray McLeod was making plays. But throughout the year, we saw him not being able to throw off that foot, and he was not willing to step up. And his eyes were not downfield at points because there was that element of I just tore this thing last year and I'm not ready for this. I mean, even Aaron Rodgers at the beginning of last year, he was not the same exact player at point. As the year went on, he was getting better and better. These type of quarterbacks who are up there in age and just suffer those type of catastrophic injuries, it's asking a lot to have success right away. So another year away from the injury, that same thing applies to Aaron Rodgers as well. I think it's going to help, and something that I think Kirk Cousins and his agent Mike McCartney have been making that clear to some teams over here that another year away from it, he's been doing all the work. He's getting better with that foot. I do think it's an element where there are some teams who would be willing to do that, and I think the Browns are one of them. And again, we'll see what they do here at the top of the second round if they trade back in. But if they don't, I think Kirk Cousins is a real option there in Cleveland still.
All right, there's one other quarterback we haven't talked about yet that is going to be, at this point, I don't know if he's really even moving the needle for the quarterback market because one, there's not a whole lot of guys left. And two, the assumption is that he's either going there or he's done, and that's Aaron Rodgers. There still hasn't been this big movement as to whether he's going to be playing in 2025 or not. It seems like it's the Steelers or bust. Do you have any other information as to when we could expect this decision to be made? How is this going to impact the draft and everything else that's going on with the quarterback market?
I mean, I feel like the update is that there isn't an update, and everyone is kind of waiting for something. Like there was the theory out there that Pat McAfee had this big show in Pittsburgh, which was really great, and so many Pittsburgh legends were there, from Sidney Crosby to Ben Roethlisberger to Skeens, the pitcher of the Pirates, who is a rising talent. Like everybody was there, but Aaron Rodgers did not make that appearance. Now there's the conspiracy theories in NFL circles that since the NFL draft is in Green Bay, Aaron is going to purposely announce it during that week just so he could upstage Green Bay having their moment, having a draft there. Everyone is trying to create some stuff. Aaron does things his way. Everyone's trying to get into his brain and trying to think of what's going on over here is basically it's not right to do it because nobody really knows. And Aaron prides himself on having that small circle where nobody talks to anybody from his circle. So everyone is waiting. But the one thing I will say about this is the Steelers, from Mike Tomlin, the head coach, Omar Khan, the GM, Art Rooney, the owner, they've said that there is no deadline here, but there is a bit of a deadline with the draft in the first round and 21st pick where it's like, we kind of need to know over here. And we've seen Cam Hayward go out there and go public about, hey, it's either play it with us or don't. He kind of tried to walk that back, but I do think they want an answer here. I think the fact that he did have that private workout with DK Metcalf, that is a good sign. Art Rooney, the owner, did say at the owners' meetings that the signs are pointing to him coming, but until he puts paper to pen over here, it's not official. And that's kind of the thing over here. But the Steelers, the agent, David Dunn, they've had a contract basically set in stone. It's a 1-year deal. Unless there's an adjustment to it, it's been a 1-year deal. It's basically there. It's more about Aaron saying, hey, I'm going to sign this today and make it happen. So it could happen any day. It could happen now. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen next week. It could happen the day of the draft. The last 2 times Aaron Rodgers has been in headlines, and he's been in headlines a lot during the offseason, both times it got done or happened in the offseason. The first one was the day of the draft a few years ago when I remember the 49ers were picking number 3 overall that year, the Trey Lance draft. There was the talk about Aaron being upset in Green Bay and wanting a trade. That happened on draft day. Of course, there was a couple years ago the trade from the Packers to the Jets that happened in the draft week. So maybe we go 3 for 3, and once again, he affects the draft and it happened during the week of the draft. Maybe that happens. But anybody saying they know what's going on with Aaron is basically not telling the truth, if we're being honest with you, because Aaron is somebody who does it his way. And again, he loves the fact that he keeps his circle very tight. So we're all waiting, and the update is that there is no updates. That's kind of where we are with this one.
Moving on from the news, last week Ari had a chance to sit down with Kansas State running back DJ Giddens, despite him being a Kansas State Wildcat and myself a Jayhawk. It was a good conversation. I think you'll enjoy it. Take a listen.
In a couple of weeks from now, he will be an NFL player. He's had back-to-back years of over 1,500 scrimmage yards. Running back out of Kansas State, it is DJ Giddens. DJ, thanks so much for doing this. How's everything going?
I know. I appreciate you, man. Everything been going good. Can't complain.
Well, I mean, this is a really exciting time in your life. You're about to become an NFL pro. Like, what are the emotions right now as we're just so close to the draft? I'm sure it's been a whirlwind with, combine and meeting teams and all that. But what are the emotions right now as we're just so, so close?
It ain't really changed for me. I just been, focusing on the process for the most part. I haven't been too much thinking about the draft as much. Just like you said, the meetings, focusing on them, making sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, being where I need to be for the most part.
Totally get it. I mean, we have so many prospects that I've interviewed over the years who sometimes get stuck with all the mock draft and where I'm going, all that stuff. It'll play itself out. You'll see in a couple of weeks, and your dream will come true. I really love your story, DJ, because you're a Kansas kid who got to stay home and play for Kansas State. What did that mean to you when you were able to be close to, family, your grandmother, and all that, and be able to play at Kansas State?
It meant a lot, especially since I was coming out. I only had two offers. I said Butler, like you said, Butler, Kansas State, and the fact that they wanted, you know, I ain't gonna say take the opportunity, but like give me an opportunity. It meant a lot. I got a couple friends down the road, my family down the road, so that was just a plus side to it.
I look back at your career, you've had a tremendous run, especially over these last couple of years. There's one game in particular that you went off, and that was last year against UCF with over 200 rushing yards. You had nearly 90 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns in that game as well. What clicked for you that day? What do you remember about just that monster performance that you had?
Off the back, I know going into the game, they was just like, uh, you gonna run the ball, like we gonna give you the ball this game, and just be free, play like you, like ain't no pressure on you. You know what I'm saying? Just go out there, we prepared for it, and just own on your preparation and do what you need to do. So going into the game, it was like I don't know if something clicked. It was just like I don't know, I was just playing free, just 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 doing me that whole game, man. Just felt like backyard football, but at the same time, you focusing on all your fundamentals, uh, footwork, alignment, assignment. Like we was seeing the same pictures from practice, different plays. We was like, if they show this defense, this what we gonna do, and it's just like everything, like not even just for me, but like just the offense and everything was just going how we prepared though.
When I think of your game, you're kind of known for your physical style, your ability to kind of wear defenses down. Where did you get that, I guess, style from? Did you always want to be a physical type of a back to where you are right now?
Yeah, I say it came natural. I always played natural. I never like looked at my game and said like tried to force anything. I put it like that. I never tried to force nothing. It was just always like natural running since I was young, and I just all right, this how I run the ball. How can I get better at it? Just being your own style of running, or what I'm saying, stop trying to. I look at other backs. I look at Emmitt Smith growing up, uh, different backs like that, but it was more like doing me for the most part.
You mentioned Emmett Smith there. Are there any running backs in the NFL, former or current, that I don't know, you've studied or you tried to model your game after? Anybody that comes to mind that you've watched over the years?
Tony Pollard, uh, Kamara, uh, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, and I throw Deuce in there. I say for the most part, Deuce Vaughn while he was in college. That's what I really like. I'm seeing it in first person, like I'm really seeing it. So that was a big one too.
I think of Deuce Vaughn, Kansas State, of course. I think of another Kansas State running back in Darren Sproles. Do you have a close relationship with those guys? Like, do you stay in contact with those Kansas State, legends who are also play the same position as you?
Most definitely, we most definitely gonna keep in contact. Um, I'm still learning to this day. Like still to this day, I might see him and still ask him some questions or text him. Especially throughout this process. I don't really know what to expect. I ain't never ever like been in this type of position. So I'm most definitely reaching out and getting advice.
Well, going through this entire process is obviously very new, and you're meeting all these NFL teams, whether it was in Indianapolis or privately or going to their facilities. Has there been anyone you've met during this process, whether it's a player, a coach, a GM, that for a second you stepped back and said like, "Oh wow, I'm meeting this person"?
Um, I don't know, like kinda a little bit, but not cause like social media, but just because like just where I'm at in general, like just the whole process, like what I'm saying. I never like I expected it, I put in the work for it, but sometimes it do feel like, man, I'm really like you when you be where your feet at, you just sit back and think about what's really going on.
Well,
Man,
I don't want to jump. I don't want to jump too far because obviously we're here getting close to the draft. But have you thought about once you make it to the NFL, guys that you're going to go up against, guys you're going to meet? Is there anyone in particular you want to meet after a game, post game, dap him up, get a jersey exchange? Like, have you thought about that? Is there anyone you want to do it with?
I ain't gonna lie, nah, I ain't too much man. That haven't crossed my mind yet. That's probably something I'm gonna have to do some homework on and figure something out. But I ain't thought that far about nothing yet. But yeah.
Well, it's going to happen here very soon for you, and you're going to be on the field of all these guys that you've watched on Sundays. What is draft night going to be like for you? Like, where are you going to be? Family? What's the friends? Like, what's the plan for you once it's time for that night to come?
So I'm gonna be in Jackson City. Uh, you know, my mom from Louisiana, my dad from Texas. So
Hmm.
I'm gonna have family coming down from Louisiana, family coming down from Texas. Had some friends come through. I have like a little, I guess like a little get together for the night. And for the most part, that's all I got planned for right now. All the details and logistics, I'm gonna have to figure that out. But I got family coming down for the most part.
Well, there's all these. We talked about before all these meetings you've had. Is there anything about your game that you think NFL teams might be sleeping on? Because this running back draft class, it's as deep as it's ever been. Like, is there anything in your game that you're like, people don't realize I'm really good at this?
Uh, so I wouldn't say like for example, I say catching the ball, route running, for example. Like I ain't did too much of it, but that's something that people will say, "Oh, nah, he probably doubt me on it." But that's one of the things I'm 100% confident on my catching and route running. So, and I know I can always get better at it too. But that's something I'm confident on that other people might not, that might be doubting that aspect of my game. So, but like I said, I ain't. It's not like I got a whole bunch of film on doing it, so I can't really blame people on what they say. But yeah, I'm confident in my catching though, route running.
Well, it's a big part of the NFL now, and you've had 50 catches over the last 2 years, over 600 receiving yards, 4 receiving touchdowns. It's definitely some of it on film, and you've showed it. So I would imagine teams realize you have that part of it, but it sounds like you're
Um,
somebody who believes you could do even more of it, which, again, it's such a big thing here in the NFL. I did want to ask you this also. If you had 30 seconds of film to convince an NFL team to draft you, which play or game are you putting on for them?
I got a few games. It gotta be just one game though, or it could be.
Let's do a couple. Which is like the ones we'll put it on the screen here once we officially release this. But like, what is like the couple of games that you're like, watch this. This is who I am. This is why you should draft me.
Nah, for sure. I'll say look at Houston. Look at the Houston game. I'll probably say Houston just off protection. Um, I was throughout the year I was battling with something, and towards the end of the year, like my coach BA, he was really like he started working me on how to work around different things. So I say protection got better. So I say Houston game for protection. Oklahoma State, um, Colorado. And I'll say them 3 games. I just say them three right now.
Is there one play in particular, your favorite play from college? What would it be? I know there are so many, but if there's one you had to pick, which one would it be?
One play, off the top, I'd say my favorite play would be Cincinnati. We ran a counter play against Cincinnati, and that's probably one of my favorite runs for sure. That's top 5 for sure.
I love it. You know you're a good player when you have so many in your brain and you can't pick one. I mean, that's how great of a college career DJ Giddens has had. Well, DJ, I want to thank you for coming on over here, talking a little bit about your career, this entire process that's coming up. We're all very excited for you. Enjoy these last couple of weeks. Enjoy draft night with the family, and best of luck in the NFL. This is just the start, but enjoy it and take it all in.
Most definitely appreciate you.
That's all we got here today on NFL Spotlight. Please take a second to make sure you guys are subscribed to us on YouTube. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, thank you. Make sure you're subbed there. Then go over to YouTube, hit subscribe there as well. We'll have some additional content for you during the draft as well as during the upcoming season. Tomorrow, we have a great opportunity to talk top quarterbacks in the upcoming draft with CBS Sports' own Mike Renner. You can also listen to him on the Pushing the Pile podcast with Kyle Long. You're not going to want to miss this episode. It's a great conversation with Ari and Renner. Please hit subscribe, and we'll see you all here tomorrow for more NFL Spotlight.